is Friday, September 14th, 2018, and this is Crypto Unqualified, keeping you up to date with unique perspectives on everything happening in crypto. My name is Nathan, and across the table from me is my co-host Benjamin. So this week's show is brought to you by SeattleCrypto.com because we own it.
Yep, for the most part.
What are we going to talk about this episode?
But first up is our market overview.
Right now, we've got a current market cap of $222 billion. It's up about $12 billion in the last week,
which is good. It feels like the market at large is trying to find bottom. I mean, it's everything is bottoming or ranging, rather. It's not able to push lower. And we'll kind of take a look at that when we hit the Bitcoin technical analysis in just a moment. But we want to start with our top three performers for the week, which is the top three highest gainers out of the top 150 cryptos based on market cap.
Yes.
So of the top 150, these are the three that have performed the best this last month. And we've got one on here, which is having its second showing, which is Doge. But in order of most to least, we've got Eternal Token.
Scam.
Easy now.
It's all right.
We got to give him a chance. Eternal Token at number 50 for market cap, with a gain of 389%. At number 42 for market cap, Electroneum, gaining 273% in the last 30 days, and our repeat offender, the second week in a row, as far as we can tell,
sounds really bad,
is number 20, Doge.
You made Doge sound like a criminal.
That's
like the coolest coin
debatable.
out there. You made it sound like such a... I don't know
how else to say that. It's
Doge is cool.
Its second showing in the top. I don't know how you say that.
Yeah.
But we mentioned it last week, and here it is again. Still number 20 for market cap. In the last 30 days, it's gained 125%. So what you said? Eternal Token could potentially be.
I'm gonna read you a paragraph. And you tell me what it sounds like.
Okay.
So it says, from the information gleaned on its website, Eternal Token appears to be a proxy token that entitles users to set ratio conversion of Eternal Token, a centralized digital currency issued and overseen by the Japanese firm Atom Solutions. An exact conversion ratio cannot be accurately pinpointed since various numbers exist in official documentation ranging from 1:1 to 1:10, with the idea being that Eternal Token is converted to the centralized Eternal Token, which can then be used for international payments via exchange with existing cryptocurrencies.
So let me get this straight. In the official documentation, there's different statements as to how many there can be. Did I understand that right?
The ratio of conversion. The idea is sold as a helpful solution to allow users to keep track of their funds via a centralized authority. Just hearing centralized authority, like I think you mentioned earlier, it sounds a little bit like Ripple.
Yeah.
I think it sounds scammy. Actually, we said it was up 389% in 30 days. It's actually up 1,400% in 14 days. So it went down.
Yeah.
But it actually went up 1,400%.
It
only came out of ICO like 3 months ago.
And it was flat. If looking back, let me just click on the all-time. In the last 30 days, it was, trending down. Then we hit flat, and then boom, spikes up. Which a lot of very good technologies and projects have similar price action, but I've never heard of Eternal Token. Almost none of what you were reading made any sense to me, and there was like warning flags in what I did catch. So do your own research. Eternal Token's on a tear, up 1,000% in 7 days. Yeah.
So
That's-
next on the list is Electronium, up 274% in 30 days. Just to read a little bit about what Electronium is. Electronium is also referred to as ETN. It's built off the Monero code base. It allows for transactions on a decentralized blockchain. It has some built-in privacy features. One of the main criticisms of Bitcoin is that the balance of every wallet address is public and easily searchable. This problem is solved with Electronium's stealth address, a one-time public key that prevents recipients' funds from being linked with their wallet. The address can be audited by a third party to prove the transaction occurred, with the sender sharing their public view key.
Super.
And last but not least, Dogecoin. I'm sure a lot of you out there have heard of Doge. Doge has been around a long time.
Mostly as a joke. I feel like it's gained more, both in relevance and in and in legitimacy, ultimately, because I think just based on its failure to just die, people have started to find ways to use Doge because it's got it's one of the coins that has been around for since when was it created?
2014, I think 15. Yeah,
it's got significant history, especially compared to a lot of projects that we hear talked about more often. But people are actually using Doge,
and you can mine it.
Yeah, and it's mineable.
You can tip with it.
If I look back at the 1-year price chart using coincheckup.com, I mean it's got pretty gradual, consistent growth. For the longest time, it was small spikes up back to baseline, small spike up back to baseline, and now we're growing a bit more. But there's some interesting things happening with Doge, so it's not unwarranted. Definitely not something I would consider to be a pump and dump kind of situation, and I can't say the same thing for the other two.
I mean, it's reached over $1 billion in market cap.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's over it right now, but it has reached that.
Yeah.
That's kind of saying a lot. There's not a lot of coins that have done that. Way to go, Doge.
Good job, Doge.
The code must be good. I mean, I haven't read of any major hacks or anything like that.
Yeah. So moving from our top 3 performers, let's take a look at what Bitcoin price action has been doing of late. And I mean, if you're looking at the weekly chart, which is what we tend to generally do on the show, just to keep a higher time frame view. Actually, this is the wrong chart. Let me pull up the other chart. And this segment of the Crypto Unqualified show is brought to you in part by TradingView.com, where you can lose vast sums of money in a short amount of time by trading away all your net worth.
That's a good idea.
TradingView.com. Lose money now.
That's great. Who wouldn't want to do that?
Where's my moon chart? Moon chart. There it is. So Bitcoin is still, generally speaking, ranging. If you're looking at the weekly price chart, which I have here, we've got some pretty solid horizontal support. And when I say horizontal support, like if you were to draw a straight line across the chart horizontally, price is finding support at that level, and that level being somewhere between $6,100 and as low as like $5,800 USD. One thing to note about what happens when you bomb a certain price level repeatedly is it can just get weaker. But I mean, we're definitely seeing demand at this level. And if you flip back and look on a daily chart, we've got a number of different things. We've got a price chart pattern that generally breaks out bullish that's been forming. It's that descending wedge where price, like I stated before, just kind of ping pongs back and forth until it reaches, about 2/3 towards the apex of the pattern, and historically will break out bullish. So we're still kind of slogging our way down through that pattern. We have hit a pretty long-term trend line and are following it up. And if I scale out, you can see where this trend line originates from. I mean, way back in the way back, this is, March of 2017. It defined a top, price broke out, tested that level, rallied off that level, and that trend line has basically carried lower, price rejections, since the last run up to 20,000. Price eventually came down, went, to about 5,600, rallied up again, and just keeps bouncing off that trend line, carrying up. So what we've got is a convergence of an upper trend line and a lower long-term trend line, and it's getting squeezed in between.
You have good hand motions. You would have been a good mime.
I was a mime.
Wow.
Yeah.
Learn something new about you every day. This is interesting. Can I add something?
Yeah, go for it.
A lot of talk about the Bitcoin ETF. Isn't going to happen. When's it going to happen? I think it's going to happen, but when is it going to happen? This year, next year? And as far as Google's concerned, Google Trends, if you go to Google Trends, if you search Google ETF, back in December 2017, it was at a peak for searching, for Google search for Google Trends. We matched that peak that we had in December just a month ago, August 25th. We matched that trend for people searching for Bitcoin ETF. So interesting thing here is, this trend, when it peaked back in December, that's when we saw things just explode afterwards. I think we went up to hit 20,000 on that for Bitcoin that next month. And if there's any correlation with that trend, right now it's down, but it's going up. So it's trending more. Bitcoin ETF search is trending more than it has
since December.
Since March. I mean, it's been flat since March. Nothing. And now there's some real interest in Bitcoin ETF. I think as there should be, because it's going to come to fruition, either this year or beginning of next year, in my opinion.
What is your opinion? This year or next year?
I think that early next year. I think like February.
I agree, and we've talked about this before. They're gonna take as much time as they legally are allotted to allow discussion, to look at the prospect of saying yes to a Bitcoin ETF. As much time as they can get, or as much time as they have, they're going to take all of it.
Yeah.
And that'll push it to, when did you say, February?
February. I mean, there could hypothetically, if there's enough positive sedative leading up to it, I mean, you could see speculative growth.
Sentiment or sedatives? I love you're just like making up words today.
Over the place, man. Sedative.
I think Bitcoin has had enough sedatives for my taking.
I need less sedatives. Anyways, yeah, I think it'll get postponed, but I think it's gonna happen. I think when it does happen, I think it's gonna be huge.
So one thing before we leave the Bitcoin price discussion, on the weekly chart, we've got price getting pushed towards another long-term trend line, and this little guy is basically the median price going back to
what little guy again? What?
Well, you can't see it yet, but it's the highest or one of the highest time frame trend lines that I've got, and it on a log scale, it is the trend line that Bitcoin price has followed. As it, every time it hits that trend line, it carries up. It very seldom, if ever, I believe, has gone below it.
Are we above the 200-day?
I don't use the 200-day moving average.
Do you use any of the moving averages?
Not I just on lower time frames, and by lower I mean like daily. So
Okay.
I use an 841 moving average cross for some charting, but generally speaking, I don't use it. But what I was getting to is that trend line, which has generally defined long-term support for Bitcoin price, is approaching, and we're going to hit that thing somewhere around November. That's not to say that it can't dip below or spike below it, but since on my chart, November of 2011 until now, Bitcoin has only ever rallied off that level
All time?
that trend line. Yeah. And
That's interesting.
You'll see it.
All right, well, let's see what we have next.
Coming up next, Nathan, I wanted to make our viewers aware of the Square Cash app and the fact that it has recently implemented Bitcoin. So Square Cash is really owned by Jack Dorsey, who owns Twitter. So Square itself is like a point of sale. You see it at a lot of coffee shops and things like that.
Yeah, they got a machine. You
just swipe
your card and make payment.
Or I've used similar things for even just like yard sales. You've got a $300 item you're trying to offload at a yard sale, and somebody comes up, but I don't have cash. Sorry. Like, well, we take debit and credit.
Right.
And you got your little Square card reader, and they can swipe. So the Cash app allows person-to-person money transfer via the app or the website. And in March of 2015, Square introduced the Square Cash for Business, which includes the ability for individuals, organizations, and business owners to use a unique username known as a cash tag, similar to a hashtag,
right,
owned by Twitter, to send and receive money. So I could send you my Square Cash tag, $ Ninja Benja, and you could send me money and vice versa. So a few, I think, months ago, or maybe even less than that, a month ago, Square Cash, the Square Cash app, rolled in Bitcoin into its interface, and it allows you to and a couple of different things that are really cool about this app. It allows you to buy and sell Bitcoin using funds from your bank account. So what you do is you log into the app, you tie it to your bank account, you can fund the app and buy Bitcoin right there with it. And then you can also withdraw Bitcoin to any other address.
I think the fee's pretty low involved with that as well, right? When you buy the Bitcoin.
Yeah,
nothing in comparison to Coinbase's fee. Which is, I think we all would agree, fairly large.
I'm not even sure what the fee is. I haven't dug that far into it. What I did do is order a Visa debit card, which it also comes with. It doesn't cost anything. You download the app, you sign up, you link your bank account, and you create a custom signature. And this is basically what it looks like. You've got cash and BTC. You've got a total US dollar balance, and you can buy and sell Bitcoin with it. One thing that you can't do yet is add Bitcoin to it. And I think once they enable that functionality, if they do...
You mean there's no address for somebody else to send Bitcoin to you?
Yes. So effectively, you don't own your private key for this. You can link it to your bank account. You can spend the money with this debit card that they give you. So if somebody were to send me a bunch of money for a night out to the Bitcoin Cash or to the Square Cash app, I've got a total balance. Say like I've got $100 in my Square Cash app. It basically lives on my mobile device. I can then use my debit card and spend that money immediately anywhere. And now I don't know if you get a low US dollar balance, if it'll pull from your Bitcoin, like insta sell so that you can transact.
I pulled up the Square fees in relation to Bitcoin.
Yeah, let's have it.
So for conversion fees, it says you are not charged a conversion fee or any other fee to buy or sell Bitcoin through the Cash App. Under the exchange rate, it says your exchange rate for buying and selling Bitcoin through the Cash App is calculated using the current market rate across the most popular U.S. exchanges, plus a spread determined by the size of your transaction and market volatility. The exchange rate may differ between transactions and may also differ from exchange rates available to you from other buyers and sellers of Bitcoin.
Okay. So this is just when somebody wants to know more about the Bitcoin aspect of the Cash App from Square. This is the little site that they created. It says, "My first Bitcoin and the legend of Satoshi Nakamoto." So no one knows who Satoshi Nakamoto is, but he, she, or they had a vision for a new kind of currency in 2008.
Interesting.
This is like a little storybook.
It's like animated, right?
Yeah.
Like
This
cartoon.
new currency or cryptocurrency would not be centrally controlled by any one business or government. They called it Bitcoin, and it was a radically new way to transact and store value all around the world. Bitcoin holds its value because there's a limited amount out there, kind of like a nugget of gold or silver. I hate that analogy, but it is kind of like that. Powerful computer networks create unique Bitcoin by using very complex math. This is called mining.
Wow. This is like for a first grader.
Yeah. A new kind of, and this is what you need, dude. If you want people like my parents to use this kind of stuff,
Yeah.
like you've got to break it down and I mean, I'm not a big fan of the artwork, but you got to break it down in like super simple terms, and because otherwise they won't get what it is or why they should care about it. A new kind of database, the blockchain, validates that each Bitcoin it actually exists, and it confirms its rightful owner. Man, I'm not gonna continue.
Please, thank you.
Sorry,
Not,
this is like torture. But so this is to help people that have no idea. Maybe they want to use Square Cash. They see Bitcoin on there. What the heck is that about? So this is it's like a children's story. It's like a bedtime story.
Do you feel like everybody is where Cash App is at right now? I mean, don't you feel like everybody is so close to being that point of sale or that blockchain that is going to make spending cryptocurrency easy? I mean, it just seems like everybody is really close.
I feel like there's a fragmentation threat right now. There needs to be one big player like a PayPal that comes in and makes something like a Square Cash App that gets everyone on board.
Super user friendly.
I mean, ideally, Facebook would be like the no-brainer to do that. And we looked up earlier, and you said that PayPal, which is probably the most widely, digital funds transfer service,
244 million users as of I think it was July.
That number to me sounds startlingly low, especially when you take into consideration the fact that Facebook has billions of monthly active users.
Yeah.
Billions with a B.
Thanks.
And I mean, like less than half of 1 million is what all of PayPal's active users are. There's so much market share there to grab. It's, if you roll something like Bitcoin into it or other digital currencies.
I mean, PayPal should be converting. I mean, if anyone, they've already got the market with fiat, with cash. They're going to be left behind if they don't.
They've been fighting it.
Yeah. So I picked one story this week that I thought was a big story in relation to EOS. So we Block One, who basically created EOS, that's headed by Dan Larimer. Block One, they recently lost, looks like 6 employees. They had 6 people leave Block.one to go start up what they're calling Strong Block. So We had the former senior vice president, David Moss, the vice president of products, Thomas Cox, vice president of infrastructure, Brian Abramson, and then 3 other, looks like, developers. They all left Block.one to start up this strong block. And they're kind of keeping tight-lipped about what exactly strong block is going to do. They said, looks like David Moss, who is going to be the CEO of Strongblock, said, we left because we saw a need in the blockchain marketplace that Block.one was not going to address. And then they went on to say that EOS will be the 787 and Strongblock will be a custom 787 factory. So, I mean, I get they're putting that in, what, Boeing jetliner terms. EOS is the big plane and we're going to make the planes. Is that what you get out of that?
I'm really not sure what to...
I don't know what else 787 would mean. 787, 787.
Do they mean a custom? So are they only making custom planes and not the original planes?
EOS will be a 787. Strongblock will be a custom 787 factory. It says, while Strongblock may have good intentions towards EOS, the exit of 4 senior personnel comes at a rough time for the fledgling EOS network. As we all know, Block.one founders Dan Larimer, Brandon Bloomer, and Brock Pierce launched the EOS platform in May of 2017, going on to oversee a year-long ICO that raised $4 billion. So the 3 main, I guess you would say, creators of Block.one are, it sounds like they're still there, but they had all these other people leave. So that's something to keep track of. The fact they're keeping tight-lipped about what it is exactly they're going to do when they're supposedly, going to work with EOS, but I don't know.
It could be just another situation. So Telos, which we'll get to in a few minutes, is a sister chain of EOS. And I think the first time that we talked about it, we spoke about it as a hard fork, which is the wrong language to use, right? So the difference in that situation was it was a group of potential block producers, which didn't get voted in, saw problems with the EOS network and governance structures, and said, we could do better. We can help, further the EOS software and the network and make it better. Those were potential block producers, not really actively involved in the EOS network at the time, but they were still active in the space. These guys were actually working at Block One and bolted.
Right.
So it's damaging for Block One.
Isn't that kind of how it goes though in this market?
I mean,
people are constantly leaving and doing their projects. Yeah.
But the reality of the situation is, if these guys see a niche market or a problem that's not being solved, then they got the capacity and will get compensated for doing it. They're gonna leave and they're gonna do their own thing, and that doesn't necessarily mean they're gonna make a competitor for EOS, and it doesn't mean that they're out to damage EOS. It could ultimately make it better, but on the face of it, it looks kind of bad.
Well, and you don't know what it's going to be. They don't say if it's going to be an ICO, if they're just, like how it's going to be structured.
I hate the analogy. It makes zero sense. Did you find anything out about the block producers collusion or anything like that? Like any of the other stuff that's been going on with EOS? Did you hear about that?
No.
So I saw something briefly on Twitter about it, and I just pulled up a Reddit discussion. EOS team is suspected of colluding with VCs and block producers.
That's ugly.
Yeah. This is posted by a Reddit user named Stop Making Accounts. Okay. It says, I'll try to keep this short and factual. I like EOS, and I want it to succeed, but I believe the community should be aware of developments. Block.one is the company that is developing the EOS IO software. Once the EOS IO software, this is going back 5 months ago. Once the EOS software is ready to use in June, third parties will be able to deploy their blockchains using the software, all of which has happened. Block producers are roughly the equivalent of miners, but there is a predetermined number, and they're rewarded for validating blocks. Block.one claims they don't have anything to do with who deploys the blockchains and who will be the block producers, all of which is accurate. And now it's and this isn't, the article I was hoping to find, but that kind of gives you a little bit of background on how things are set up. There's Yeah, and actually, you commented on the tweet. This was a tweet or a retweet from one of the Telos guys, right? From Douglas Horn.
I just commented on the monopoly of the block producers,
And that's
I mean,
that's what it is. So all of these block producers are basically colluding to keep each other in power, and they've got so much voting.
well, they make the money,
weight,
you know.
Yeah,
when
that
they do
they
that.
can do that. And I don't know if this was just for the Asian, some of the Asian block producers, or if there was collusion among. I mean, you had to expect this was going to happen.
I mean, that's why I think Telos, the Telos project, needs to come in and do, you know, their vision is one to where that monopoly can't happen anymore.
Maybe. I was thinking about this on the way here. So, so Telos, when it launches, it's going to use the original Genesis snapshot for the EOS network to.
Can you tell everybody what that means?
So when EOS was being created, EOS as a platform blockchain similar to Ethereum, you know, EOS gave everyone a year to buy their EOS token. EOS launched itself on top of Ethereum, and as such, what you were buying was an Ethereum token. So when the EOS network went live to mainnet, when they actually bootstrapped and boom, we're off on our own, they left Ethereum. They took a snapshot of everyone's wallet. What are we at? Boy, we just blew our time frame.
40 minutes right now.
They took a snapshot of everyone's wallet. So whatever you had in your Ethereum wallet for EOS tokens, that balance now had an equivalent of EOS on the EOS network, right? So that snapshot is what is being used. It gets so complicated.
Right. That snapshot's being used to delegate who gets Telos, basically.
Yes.
You're not, so like if they put a limit on how much Telos
It's basically
you can get,
it's almost a snapshot of a snapshot.
but
It starts to get a little bit Inception.
But there's a maximum on how many you can get.
Yes. So
to make it fair.
So what EOS has done, because you know all of these exchanges, they basically scooped up vast sums of the EOS tokens. So they had a massive balance of EOS when the network went live, so they could vote each other in as block producers, and they can control the network, which is basically what's happened. And so Telos, which is trying to make a more equitable network, said we're not going to honor that to its full extent. We're going to cap all of these balances at 40,000, which eliminates effectively 3/4 of the total supply, but only impacts less than 1% of all of the wallets. So they're carving off all the whales to try and make governance and voting more fair.
Because the top 100 holders of EOS own 75% of the tokens.
Yeah. And you can't, there's no real way to combat that. So what EOS is doing is they're taking a snapshot of what Telos is doing is they're taking a snapshot of all of the EOS balances from when it went live, and they're crediting those 1-to-1 up to 40,000.
That's the key word right there, or the key phrase is up to 40,000.
Yes. So then what they're going to do, because there has to be a Telos snapshot as well. So when an app or dApp developer wants to do an airdrop for whatever product or service it's going to have that's going to live on the Telos network, they're going to want to credit Telos holders. But what Telos is going to do is they're going to push off that snapshot to happen after 29 days. So what it's going to do is it's going to force people to interact with the network in that amount of time for their balance to be recognized. So let me give you an example. So you buy a whole bunch of EOS right now, so that when the Telos network goes live, you got 20,000, right? And you're just going to sit on that and wait till it goes up, and you're going to sell it all. But if you don't vote or transact or actually interact with the network with your balance, within 29 days, when they take that snapshot, you're not going to be included.
Interesting.
So it forces speculators to get involved and have to actually use the network. And I think it's a brilliant idea. The other thing that's really cool that they're doing is they're facilitating a path for people to get Telos who somehow lost their EOS for various reasons. There's all kinds of different things that could have happened. Maybe they lost the key, when they registered for their EOS balance. But they have a path, and all the links to all of this stuff will be in the show notes. But they've created a path for people to be able to still prove that they should have had EOS, and you can unequivocally you can prove those things, so that those people get a Telos balance. Let's see what else they've got. So a lot of this stuff comes from the most recent Telos Weekly Report, number 11, dated September 27th, just yesterday. And there's lots of good stuff about what the Telos network has been up to, their drive to get to a go, no-go vote, which actually the very first one happened this morning at 1600 UTC, about 9 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. The vote was no, but if you want to take a look at where they're at in terms of readiness for an actual launch, you can go to the telosfoundation.io/launch and go through the whole checklist. They've got, they've got everything just about with a green check mark, or actually maybe not everything. They're close. I thought they were more.
Do they know? Is there exchanges that have come up? Have they worked with exchanges as far as where they would list the Telos ad? Have you heard anything about that?
They haven't said anything explicitly about which exchanges will be listing Telos, but they have stated that they are working through problems related to that. So, in terms of whether or not they produce Telos on the fly, if an exchange, so if you hold EOS right now on an exchange, and Telos network goes live, in theory, you should have a Telos balance. But that's all dependent upon the exchange.
Right?
Because you don't hold the keys. So their conundrum has been, when an exchange says, we are now going to honor all of these EOS wallets with their equivalent Telos, do we create that on the fly to satisfy that what was originally a potential balance? Do you see the problem there? So those Telos don't exist yet.
Well, and you said you have to sign up and be active even if you get them, you got to be active within the first 29 days to.
Right. Yeah. So they're working through all of those types of problems, and I think what they basically came to was they're going to look at everything out there that should be created and create it all in one shot, rather than trying to produce these things on demand.
So it might not be able to be on an exchange till after that 29-day grace period, till they know exactly who's getting what.
Yeah, and it's another situation as far as exchanges are concerned. Listing services, they want to know what's the total supply that's out there, and you don't want to have it, be a situation where, well, it depends on who says they're going to honor Telos, and then we'll print more.
Right.
They want to make everything as clear and as cut and dry and as simple as they can.
What's your opinion? What is your price speculation on Telos? Let's say the 29 days are up. Telos has now been live for 3 months. What's your price speculation?
I mean, I would assume.
I know you're not a,
I'm not
professional.
I'm not a professional anything. I'm not a financial advisor. Trading and investing comes with an inherent amount of risk. Please do your own research and don't take what I say as financial advice because it's not. But to answer your question, I would assume that Telos, once it's gotten itself off the ground, would be at least half the current price of EOS, if not the same price, because they're two main reasons. They are solving a lot of problems that the EOS network is struggling with right now in terms of governance, and which is super attractive from an investor's standpoint, but even more attractive is the fact that they're eliminating so much of the total supply and impacting so few of the wallets, which means they're cutting out all the whales, they're reducing supply, and it's a better overall product. So why wouldn't it be valued at least what EOS is valued at right now? And I would say, being conservative, half is very realistic.
Well, it's going to be half the amount of tokens too, right? Because if you're capping it at 40,000 per person, and if 100 people had 75% of the total EOS volume, then I mean, what is the coin count going to be on Telos? Has that even been talked about?
I think
the total number.
There's a rough number because they said they're eliminating 3/4 of the supply.
Okay, so 200 million then, or
yeah, somewhere around there, like 275 million versus a billion.
So what's an evaluation on 200 million? Basically, I mean, it's basically EOS. It's basically a better version of EOS, and there's only 200 million of them.
And just to be clear, it's a sister chain to EOS. EOS is still, these things are not in competition. They're kind of working in concert, or they're supposed to be. And
arguably better though.
Yeah.
And a lot less of them.
Yep, less. And if it's got the same demand or more, I mean, logically, I would assume it would be priced similarly.
All the other stuff that works with EOS, it's the same code. So I mean, the transaction speed, all that stuff none of that would change, right?
No.
The dApps that can be created on it. I mean, that's all.
There's interoperability between EOS and Telos, even down to the fact that Telos will be compatible with the Scatter desktop app, and Scatter is a single sign-on application which allows you to interact with the EOS network, kind of like MetaMask is for Ethereum. So there's a lot of interoperability, and people that have created dApps for EOS can very simply and easily, have those things run on Telos as well. It's
the same essentially.
It's very similar with drastic improvements.
Yeah. All right. Well, we've gone pretty long.
Yeah, and there's still a lot more to be talked about, especially as far as Telos is concerned. Take a look in the show notes when you have a chance and go to the Telos weekly report posted by the Telos Foundation. You can probably also get to it by going to telosfoundation.io. And that does it for today's show.
That is a wrap. Yeah.
Yeah. I love how it's like right at the very end we're like,
why are the endings so awkward?
Just because, like, do I talk? Do you talk? I don't know.
Go ahead.
All right.
Sign us off.
So that's all the time we have for this week. If you liked the show or have any questions, let us know in the comment section below. And be sure to hit that subscribe button so we can help you stay up to date on everything happening in crypto. Or
I don't know.
No. I will tell you. Or
okay.
If you'd rather a more direct approach, you can find us on Steemit and Twitter by looking up @HowUnqualified. And for a deeper dive into crypto essentials and a full archive of the Crypto Unqualified show, just head over to seattlecrypto.com.
You can also find us on Twitter individually at @CryptoKahuna and
at Ninja Benjamin.
That's it. Thank you for watching Crypto Unqualified.
I'm Benjamin.
I'm Nathan.
And we out.
Howdy.